Hey guys, SK here, back with another Clash Royale video. Hope you guys are all doing well. In today's video, we have special guest Dragon T back on the channel. If you guys did not know, he is one of, if not the best PumpBow player in the entire world. And today he's going to be pushing above 3,000 medals or rating points in Ultimate Champion League on Path of Legends during the final end season weekend. So he already gets a lock in the first match against this Mortar deck and has a huge advantage with the pumps on the board. Actually just goes for a second Xbow right there. I did unfortunately miss the start of this match, but this game already looks like it's kind of over. I mean, Dragon is just up so much Elixir, and that's kind of how he likes to play this matchup, I know. He gets like a few pumps early, then he just tries to go Xbow and take it. So just some context for you guys. Dragon is one of the best PumpBow players in the world, as I said, and just one of the best Xbow players by extension, I suppose, at least in terms of finishes and everything, because he does actually have numerous top 100 ladder finishes, numerous top 100 global tournament finishes, mostly with PumpBow, but I think he has some top 100 GTs with through no Xbow cycle as well, and of course he can just play different Xbow decks as well. But this is his current favorite deck, and this is pretty much the best variant of PumpBow. I actually did make a video about this deck, I think a couple of weeks back, where I said it's the only no-skill Xbow deck, and do still somewhat stand by that statement, because I do think it is a lot different in terms of its playstyle against most decks and just in general, and I will be talking about that playstyle today by taking a look at what Dragon does. With that being said, of course, any deck can still take a certain level of skill, especially when played by someone as well as Dragon here. So he has 3 pumps on the board right now. Looks like he's just trying to stack advantages in terms of Elixir, while the opponent is just spamming defensive Mortar. So I need to see how Dragon's going to break through this defensive Mortar spam. And he just gets a 4th pump on the board. The opponent can actually fireball all 3 pumps in one go if he wants, I believe. Just goes for a miner, and he's actually just minoring on the pumps. Dragon does go for the Goblins to keep the pump somewhat alive, and I believe he's going for another Xbow on the left. Now I wholeheartedly believe this Xbow is just a bait to get back to a second one on the left, as he does force out the Evo Knight, and he's already like one off, I think. Great Fire Spirit as well, predicting the Spear Goblins. And yep, he is right back to an Xbow. And he goes for a pre-log on the gang. Gets the Mortar instead. Honestly, it would have been a crazy play if he pulled it off. Great E-Spirit, though, does clip the gang this time. And the opponent is just dying. He does not have Evo Knight back. He has normal Knight. And he can get a Fireball right now, but Dragon has another Xbow. And that's probably going to be it. Because, yeah, other Xbow comes down. The opponent's at 1. He can't stop the Evo Knight, let alone the Xbow in the middle. That's going to be a good game. For 3,000 rating points in Ultimate Champion, so Dragon's at like 2,990 right now. So very nice first match and first win of our video. Alright guys, so into our next match against GY. Unfortunately, he's not playing Graveyard. He's playing what probably looks like Goblin Giant Sparky, based on the mini P.E.K.K.A. I think Graveyard is a pretty good matchup for this deck. It goes for pre-arrows on maybe Goblins, or I guess Skeletons. He doesn't really know what Dragon has necessarily, but yeah. Also, by the way, guys, Dragon does have a Twitch channel that he streams on. I'll be linking down in the description below, as well as his Twitter account if you guys like to support him and show him some love. I have actually collaborated with him in the past. We've been friends for a while, and we had a video that did really well, where he was like, I think 27-0 or 27-1 in the GT with PumpBow, the old version that had the Archer Queen and mini P.E.K.K.A. with the double cycle cards, and I believe the Skeletons, or double spirits and the Skeletons, so like, you know, 3 1 Elixir cards, then the log, so cycle went crazy. One downside of this deck, guys, of course, is that we don't have a big spell in here, so as close as we can get to spell cycle is going to be log cycle, which is actually a thing, believe it or not. I think we will see that at some point in this video. Now the opponent's going to go in. Dragon is going to let the Musketeer die. I believe he didn't have a Spirit in cycle to protect it, or else he would have protected it. Goes for a Knight. Goblins for the Goblin Giant, and the opponent does go for the arrows, but I actually think the opponent lost right here, because Dragon, yeah, Spirits to protect the Muskie. Full defends the Sparky. I believe he can actually just Xbow with this Musketeer, because he's up so much Elixir, and if I was him, that's what I would do, and that is what he does. Again, I would like to take a look at his gameplay to see what he does differently than other people, or just how he plays his deck in general, but of course, I do still think I can like talk a little bit about what he's going to do with my own personal opinion. And it's just kind of going to be like a PumpBow god, I guess, based on like his gameplay from, again, one of the top PumpBow players in the entire world. In my opinion, the best PumpBow player. I don't know anyone better, considering his finishes and everything. So of course it's a pleasure to get him back on the channel as well. And he does actually already take the win. He goes for another pump. So this is actually really good, because as you guys can see, PumpBow, while it doesn't have a big spell, it also heavily punishes other decks that don't have big spells themselves, because the opponent does not have a big spell. I believe his last card is probably like Rage or something. Like, this is just a really degenerate and toxic deck. It is actually a Fireball, but he chose to not Fireball anything so far. I really don't know why. It looks like Dragon is just going to be cycling defensive cards, maybe no defensive Xbow, just a bunch of defensive passive support cards. Fire Spirit's going to splash, E-Spirit's going to reset the Sparky, and you will notice he has a double Spirits in here too, which are pretty useful. I believe he's using E-Spirit instead of Ice Spirit because it just provides more utility. You know, you can do better against Swarm and especially against Graveyard too, although you do have a really good Graveyard matchup regardless. And it is also a reset for stuff like Sparky, you know, where Ice Spirit would be hard to get on the Sparky. Dragon is BMing, which I think is totally deserved, because look at this guy's deck. It honestly just makes me kind of mad just looking at it, because it's like, this is the problem with the current meta right now. There are decks like these running around everywhere. That's why this is so, like, such a toxic meta, guys. And, like, honestly, one of the worst ones we've had in a long time. I don't think it's worse than Evo Firecracker, but still pretty bad. But yet another win above 3K for Dragon now, top 500. Alright guys, into our next match against what looks to be a Chinese, or actually I think it's a Japanese player based on the second character in that name. I don't believe that's the Chinese character. Goes for a Fire Spirit first play, gets the... Wait, what? Why did that E-Spirit not connect? Is it... I thought... Oh, because the tower was Rage, right? So I guess it had a higher hit speed. Opponent goes for a Goblin Giant right away. Dragon's going to have to defend this really well. Goes for a Knight up high. He left a double Spirits for these minions, which does actually work, by the way. Look at that nice double Spirit action. And the opponent fireballs the Muskie, which is like a good play. But at the same time, I genuinely think the opponent lost here, because Dragon does go for a nice log. Really terrible Rage, actually. I guess he didn't think Dragon would log. So in that sense, good log by Dragon. I believe Dragon is going to Xbow here because he can't really get a lock once he gets... Actually, no, I'm wrong. He goes for a pump. My bad. That's the thing, guys. So this deck, if you are not an Xbow player, by the way, don't feel too worried, because this isn't really an Xbow deck as much as like Xbow Cycle, like 3.0. This is definitely more of like a pump beatdown deck, you know. Like Dragon told me that himself. He's given me some tips in the past, and he said it plays more like beatdown, where you just get a huge elixir advantage and accumulate pumps on the board, and at that point you just kind of overwhelm your opponent here. So Dragon does just stack the second pump instead of Xbow to punish, and I guess that is actually more of this playstyle. You know, with 3.0, if you catch some low in elixir and single, you're gonna go win and try and take the tower. But Dragon is just stacking pumps. There's already a third pump in I think 1.5 minutes of the game, so 2 pumps on the board right now. He's up so much elixir, by the way. The opponent does not have a fireball or anything of that nature to defend this pump, and I believe Dragon, yeah, he goes for the Xbow. Evo Knight does catch the Goblin Giant. Good prediction. Goes for the Goblins too. I believe even if the opponent did not go for Goblin Giant, if he went for a Goblin Giant, say in the left, to like support the Dark Prince, he could have just gone Evo Knight. Actually, no, he didn't have an Evo Knight for that, but he could have gone like Goblins. Definitely could have cycled back to another Knight for that defense, if anything. Does protect this Xbow as well, by the way, again, because we have no big spell in the deck. Once you do finally build up that elixir advantage and get your Xbow lock, you want to hold on to it as much as you can, because that might be one of the only times you're going to get one. Nice log, maybe see a Spirit as well, and we do, and that's Dead Mother Witch. Another response going to be required by the opponent here, which is a Dark Prince. I believe Dragon will just pump here, if I'm not mistaken. He could also like Knight and Xbow again. Yeah, he just pumps. I knew it. And notice, guys, he's actually giving the opponent fireball value on that pump, because sometimes with this deck, you want to play pumps to bait fireballs or spells. You want them to fireball your pump so that they're down elixir, and then you can go in and they don't have a fireball for that. He's definitely going to go in here. No, oh, he does, yep, but P.E.K.K.A. Goblins, though, are not going to die to Rage as well. So Goblin's a very solid option in this deck, and that's a good game. The opponent went Minions, which I don't know what that was about, considering they don't do anything to block an Xbow. And Dragon is back to a Knight for this. He does just have to stall. Log, I think he's back to a Knight, right? Oh, just Goblins around. Doesn't even need the Knight. Too early, at least, and he actually just defended that without a Knight, so really nice utility by Dragon. Using his other cards without Knight, because he didn't really have 3 elixir at the time, was just utilizing the low elixir cards, and defended. And another nice win against Goblin Giant Sparky. Alright guys, into another match against what looks to be a Korean player this time. No surprise he's playing Splashyard. Splashyard is one of the favorite decks of all time by Korean players, like especially top ladder. You see so many Korean players playing Splashyard. You know, there's Starlight, the best in the world. There's Woo, this other guy. There's Justice. I'm not sure if Woo and Justice are the same guy or not, but there's basically a ton of top Korean Splashyard players, and this is not like a racist thing. This is just genuinely just a pattern. Like, they all play Splashyard. They're all very good at it. I'm not sure why exactly, but it's just kind of a thing, I guess. Pump comes down. I believe the opponent poisoned the Musketeer, right? So Pump is also acting as a punish card right here. Dragon does just elect to log the Tombstone off, and I believe this is just going to be a very easy win, because even I personally, whenever I play against Splashyard with PumpBow, it's like a free win, because number one, you have lots of graveyard counters. Number two, they have a slow cycle, so you can definitely just out-cycle their poison and go for a pump. He does poison this pump, which I think it might be a mistake, because, yeah, Dragon Expos. And can the opponent even defend this pump? Okay, really good Ice Whiz. If he didn't go for that, it might have been trickier, because, you know, that Ice Whiz is going to get a lot of utility for only 3 elixir. an Evo Knight. Okay, he's going to defend this because of the Evo Knight, but I don't know if he can defend the next Xbow, or even if he does, he will not really be able to defend the next pump, in the sense that he can't stop it from getting a huge Elixir advantage and just kind of screwing him over. Muskie comes down just to snipe and support this Evo Knight a little bit. Another Xbow is back, so very fast cycle by Dragon. Trying to utilize, number 1, his Elixir lead, number 2, the opponent's bad card cycle. Does get an Ice Whiz down last second. I believe he has a Barbarian cycle. Goblins come down to predict. Maybe it was a Baby Dragon, if anything, because I think Barbarian would have gone right through those Goblins, right? But does just go for another pump. And again, as you guys can see, you know, there is some utility in not letting your opponent get any spell value on your pump and your weak side tower, but there is sometimes a time when you want to intentionally do that, and this is one of those times, because Dragon does not really care. He actually wants the opponent to poison the pumps again, as he does, and he's back to another pump in, I think, 1 card, or, yeah, right there. So this is how you play this matchup, and this is how you play a lot of matchups, guys. You just stack pumps, you get a huge advantage, and then you just overwhelm and pressure. So, you know, really good stuff. Basically just doing exactly what he has to do in this matchup, and there's really nothing the opponent can do because they poison the pump. It means they can't graveyard. They don't have poison with the graveyard, which means Goblins will full counter the graveyard. Does just go for another pump, giving him spell value again because he just doesn't really mind it. By the way, guys, pump is a really strong card. It actually gets a +1 trade against almost every spell in the game, except I believe Log and Earthquake. It gets a +1 against Fireball, gets a +1 against Poison. So, you know, every time the opponent poisons the pump, Dragon is actually going up 1 Elixir. Poison on the Xbow this time. He's back to another Xbow on the left, and I believe this might just be good game. Maybe not, because the Evo Knight is, like, pretty much there, but definitely going to see an Xbow on the left in a second here to support this Musketeer. Yup, and Knight preemptively to cycle to the Xbow. Then if he's back to another Poison, the opponent that is, he will go for it, and then Dragon will once again Xbow on the right, I believe. Logs, the opponent has to poison. There's no way he's getting away with this defense without it. Baby Dragon comes down, Barb Barrel, we can catch that with the Goblins. Does miss the catch, unfortunately. The opponent's, like, fighting for his life, and it's actually working, but that's going to be a lock right there. And another Xbow comes down in the right. And Ice Whiz, well played, but that's going to be pretty easy to kill. And then Evo Knight as well, so Dragon's just kind of overwhelming in both lanes. This is definitely it, because opponent does not have an Evo Knight in cycle, and he's already down too much Elixir. Dragon still literally has a pump on the board. Like, this Evo Knight's undefendable. That's good game. That's an Xbow lock, right? I'm pretty sure, yep, and that's it. So, you know, this is a really good matchup, and that's exactly how you want to play it. You overwhelm with pumps. And it's actually not over yet, because the opponent did survive somehow. Okay, no, he did not survive. So yeah, that is a really good matchup, but Dragon still played it exactly how he was supposed to. Alright guys, into another match against a Japanese player. Dragon has been a bit up and down, trying to get 3,100 rating points right now to call it a video. So we are 2 wins away from it once more. Opponent goes for a pump as well, and Dragon tries to punish with the Knight Goblins. And Mother Witch is going to be unfortunate because that's going to do really well against Goblins. Spawn a bunch of pigs. But that's still going to be, honestly, a pretty good situation for Dragon, I guess. Just having a pump. I mean, he's going to be down Elixir, down damage, but you are even on pumps, and he's, as you guys can see, the cycle goes crazy. Opponent literally just went for 2 cards. Dragon went for 4. He's already back to a pump. Fireball on the second pump comes down. And this is always a precarious situation, because when you have 2 pumps down, the opponent fireballs the second one, they're down so much Elixir, right? It's going to be really tricky. Really nice split Goblins. That's how you counter the Wallbreakers with the Goblin, just by splitting them in the middle. And Fisherman comes down. Now Dragon is back to a 3rd pump. Again, it took him like 1 minute to get 3 pumps down. So that's why, you know, the beauty of this deck, you have E-Spirit, Fire Spirit, Goblins, and Log. That is 6 Elixir to get around your 4-card cycle. Get back to another pump. Scaly Dragons come down along with the Recruits. And Dragon is back to the Evo Knight because, again, super fast cycle. You know, he cycled Knight really well. So Evo Knight synergizes very well with this deck as well. And Dragon is going to pump again, I think. I don't think it's time to Xbow because... Actually, okay, I was wrong. Okay, let me think. The reason for the Xbow, I believe, is because... Oh, wow, that's a lock. Opponent messed up big time there. I guess he expected the pre-cycled Wallbreakers or Goblin to tank, but it didn't. Of course, he still gets damage, but Dragon goes for another pump, and the opponent can fireball this if he wants. But he's, again, just going to be down 1 Elixir. Like, is that really what you want as the opponent? Like, they're even on Elixir, guys, and Dragon has 2 pumps on the board. I believe that means he's up at least, like, 4, maybe 5, maybe even 4 or 6, right? Because, yeah, that's 2 Elixir, then they're going to give 1 more each, and then 1 more on death. So... yeah, Dragon is up just way too much Elixir. Goes for the Log on that other Wallbreaker. That's going to be a baby Xbow lock, about 300 damage, not bad. And another pump, this time again intentionally, wants the opponent to fireball it on the weak side tower to get that elixir advantage and accumulate it, because that is how you play this deck. The opponent's just playing recruits, which is kind of a toxic deck, honestly, but no real win con in this deck. Like, he has a pump, but he doesn't really have like a goblin giant, he doesn't have real hogs, he doesn't have like a battle ram, which you don't really see at all in the game anymore, like ever, at least in my experience on ladder. But you know, he doesn't have any win con, is my point. Fire Spirit, E-Spirit actually does pretty well against the recruits, takes their shields fully off. And Musketeer as well is a very nice card, by the way, pretty underrated in this deck. Because as you guys can see, Muskie gets insane value on defense. You know, it's a very heavy-duty card, which means it's very spell-resistant. You know, Fireball doesn't kill it, Poison barely does, but you can just kind of overwhelm your opponents by stacking Musketeers on defense too. There's only so much they can do about them at some point. Especially decks with no big spell. In fact, they can't do anything about the Muskie. Other which going to be a bit of a pain spawning these pigs, but I think he baits out the Fireball on the Xbow plus Muskie, and I believe he will just pump again. Knowing Dragon, he could also just Xbow because he has enough Elixir advantage to support that, I believe. But yeah, it does just go for the Xbow. Not entirely sure on that placement. Pre-log, beautiful. Pre-log comes down. Sadly gets the Fisherman down in time, but that was amazing by Dragon. I really love the initiative. That was clutch. And just goes for another pump. You know, every time he goes in and defends, he punishes with the pump. And double spirits plus the Knight hits. Gonna counter the Wallbreakers. The problem is the opponent is getting fireballs on the tower. Dragon is log cycling now and pumps. This time, yeah, I can't go same lane because the opponent can't really be fireballing the tower anymore. You know, this is, again, goes back to the problem, the one biggest problem I have with PumpBow, which is no big spell. What you can rectify, by the way, if you guys want to make substitutions in this deck, you can go for, say, a fireball instead of one of the spirits or maybe goblins. I'd say one of the spirits probably. It does change it up, though. Obviously, all the good PumpBow players don't play with a big spell. But, yeah, that is the issue, though, because the opponent can, like, kind of spell out. But Dragon right here goes for another pre-log and does clip the double recruits in the Mother Witch. So very high-value log, actually. Really like that center log. And he's trying to bait out a fireball, I believe, in the left. Notice, guys, every single log of Dragons has been hitting the right side tower, and he's just log cycling. And fireball gets forced out on the left Xbow, beautiful. I believe Dragon could either defensive Xbow or pump. Right here, I don't think pump's the move, because, yeah, actually, it's triple elixir. You don't really pump in triple, guys, because, I mean, pumps last about 50 seconds to 1 minute. I don't know exactly, but you just don't really want to, you know, go for that. Naked fireball with the opponent, but Dragon is going to show me exactly what I was talking about earlier, guys. We're going to see the log cycle come in. So 1 log, 20 seconds left. Let's count how many logs he can get. He's already stacking spirits. Actually, that's probably a good game, right? Because the opponent is just getting overwhelmed. Look, 3 musketeers. Dragon built his own 3 musketeers push. That's 2 logs in 10 seconds. Definitely could get a third one. But that's it. He got overwhelmed by the 3 muskies. Dragon actually has, that's, okay, still 3 muskies, but an Evo Knight and a normal Knight. So, crazy game. Alright guys, and Dragon is going for 3100 right here, right now, to call off the video, close it out, and have a very nice ladder push. Fire Spirit log sadly does not kill Zappies. I actually thought it did, huh? Survive on 1 HP. Or I guess with 1 Expo tick it does, because I know like Expo, like you go for Fire Spirit plus log against Zappies when you have an offensive Expo. It does pretty well. We see the Zappies and Bowler, honestly not a good sign. Maybe Graveyard, most likely, because I don't really see those combinations in any other deck. But this looks like, yeah, the opponent's definitely setting up for some kind of tank in front of this. Like whether it's maybe a Giant, maybe a Goblin Giant, maybe an E-Giant. There's the normal Giant. Dragon cycling rapidly to another Knight, and the Graveyard comes down. This is where Goblins are very clutch, guys. This deck does have numerous Graveyard counters in the form of Goblins, E-Spirit, Log even, so pretty nice stuff. We are going to see some spirits and just some cycle cards to protect this Musketeer. Again, protecting Musketeer, very key on defense to support your Musketeer and just have it get as much value as you can. Another pump comes down. The opponent can't actually clip both of those without activating King Tower, I believe his last cards. One of them should be arrows. So he could arrows these pumps if he wants, but obviously not going to activate King when you're playing Graveyard, right? But Giant Graveyard, guys, looks like a very tough matchup for Dragon here because the opponent does have a Bowler as well. Evo Knight comes down, but the opponent has Evo Barbs too, making it even worse because now he can just stall out, get an Evo, or get a Bowler down or even a Giant down. Gets the Giant, and that's a dead Expo, sadly. Like, Dragon, yeah, he does go for the Muskie, E-Spirit, and Fire Spirit. Very nice play. Sadly, Fire Spirit doesn't jump, but still, you know, Muskie's going to turn around, support the Expo. He could actually go for another Expo in a second here, but can he defend the Bowler is the question. I believe if the opponent's smart here, he will just ignore the Musketeer. Because, yeah, he's a beatdown player. He can afford to take 2 Muskie hits. That's actually just 1. The Dragon does just reset with a pump. Honestly, fair enough. You just want to reset. I don't really know how he's going to lock in this matchup, guys, because the opponent has 50 billion Expo tanks. He has the Giant, mainly. Then he has the Bowler. And then tertiary, he has the Evo Barbs and even the Zappies. So he just has way too many Expo counters, in my opinion. So nice play by Dragon, defensive Expo. I guess that's another thing I want to talk about with this deck, defensive Expos. I think you go for them if you can't get value from offensive Xbows, you know, in this matchup. For example, you're not just going to spam Xbows and get a lock, right? So you definitely just want to go defensive Xbows sometimes. Also, you can go for them to bait spells out, you know, and then that way you can get spells baited and then go for your pumps, and the pumps will get full value. So that's another thing. I don't know how much exactly a pump gives. I think it's like either 2 or 3 elixir from the 6 that it normally costs, like extra. Or maybe I'm mistaken, but I think it gives like 2, maybe, would be my guess. E-Spirit comes down. Knight is going to be a misplay, actually, because that is going to be a bowler lineup on tower. But the Xbow does come down. And opponent does not get anything down. I don't know what happened there. Maybe he lagged, maybe he panicked. But either way, huge lock. As you guys can see, Dragon is unloading his entire hand at the bridge. Muskie, Spirits, Knight, and Goblins. And that's going to be dead Mega Minion. And as I said, you want to hold on to any Xbow lock you get. So that's probably a good game, because if the Giant came down in time, you know, it would have gotten shredded by all that support. But Dragon wouldn't have gotten any of that damage, so he is up a ton of Elixir. You know, he compounded all that Elixir before he ever went in, which is a strategy you do with this deck, as I said. But still, that misplay is going to cost the opponent big time and support Dragon a lot as well. But that's not to say he didn't deserve it. You know, he played exactly how he had to. It's just the opponent messed up. Evo Knight comes down, doesn't really get any value against the graveyard, but it was like a safe play, I guess. And could see an Xbow here. We have a Knight. We have double Knights and a Muskie. Xbow on the left I really like, actually, because dual lane pressure, very key. Does get the bowler with the double Spirits, but sadly not going to get the E-Spirit jump, so that's going to be a dead. Oh, it's not actually. Dragon goes last minute support, and now we might Xbow on the left in a second here. Or in the right, rather. No, Xbow on the left, actually. I guess he doesn't want the opponent to get a counter push in the same lane, you know? Because if he goes in the right, then the opponent will get a counter push, and Dragon's right side tower is pretty weak. We force the arrows out. Knight comes down, but sadly, Mega Minion is so good against middle Xbows, you can't snipe it at all. Double Spirits, though, going to take it out. And I think we might just see a ton of pressure. No, we see a defensive Xbow. So it looks like Dragon's mindset now is, okay, I've got enough damage. I just have to perfectly defend. You know, he's up 1,000 damage, so he can defend this well, I would say, and probably be fine. He goes Goblins early, and he's just DPSing the Giant down super fast, as you can see, because he does want to take that tank out ASAP. He doesn't want the graveyard to be tanked for at all. Tons of graveyard damage coming in, unfortunately. We're going to see an X on the left, which I like. Again, number 1, dual lane pressure. He has a lot of counter-pushing units in the right. Number 2, he has to bait something out in the left. Otherwise, the opponent's going to go Giant Graveyard in the right, and that's going to be bad. Nice, Giant forced out. That's good game, because he gets a Muskie shot, and he gets a log down if he wants. Fire Spirit connects to Graveyard to predict or Goblins to predict the Graveyard, and that's going to be it, guys. Good game comes out by Dragon. Great played match. Honestly, might have been different if the opponent didn't mess up and go for that late Giant, but still nonetheless, you know, great gameplay by Dragon, and still played very well even after that point to get more pressure on the left. And so hopefully this video shows you guys how to play PumpBow a little more. As you guys can see, that is going to put Dragon in a very good spot, 3,100 and basically top 400 in the world. So that's about it for the video. Thank you again so much to Dragon for coming on the channel. Much love to him. And again, guys, you can give him some support if you would like. PumpBow is, you know, I would say it's not really as much of an Expo cycle deck as the other one. So again, even if you don't play Expo, you might have success with this deck. Just again, remember the key principles. Use pumps to compound Elixir and then go in. And usually punish opponents with pumps, not with Expos. Eventually just overwhelm them. That's about it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.